I made terrible decisions when it came to relationships. I got into toxic, terrible relationships. My picker was broken. I had no idea who I was. I think that's the most important part. When you're so new in recovery, for me, I had no idea who I was, what I liked, how I wanted to be treated, nothing. So my suggestion was don't get into a new relationship in early recovery, and don't even have sexual relationships in early recovery, which is just a suggestion. And I was not perfect with that, but I did it to the best of my ability. And I did not get into a relationship for the first year. And it really made a difference.
It's time for the Share Recovery Podcast, where we bring you amazing life-changing success stories from addicts and alcoholics all over the world who share their inspiring journey in recovery. And now, here's your host,
On today's episode of the Share Podcast, we have my good friend Mary joining us. Now, at the time of the interview, Mary was 5 months pregnant, and now 8 months pregnant at the time we are launching this interview. So I hit her up on Facebook real fast to see how the last 3 months have been. Since the interview, Mary has been working on getting LCDP certified, licensed chemical dependency professional, to further her substance abuse treatment career, and has also received her tobacco cessation certification as well. My good friend Andy, Mary's fiancé, spends months away from home as a merchant marine, which has allowed her to accomplish some big milestones during his absence. So in a nutshell, Mary has basically, in her words, not mine, been doing lots of training for work, is getting ready for maternity leave, getting really fat, again, Mary's words, and more importantly, getting ready for our AA baby, as she puts it. We're too blessed to be stressed. How much do you love that saying? Andy, Mary, I wish you all the love and happiness in the world, and I look forward to seeing all the beautiful baby pictures. HP, baby. So now let's dive into Mary's story on what it's like to be pregnant in sobriety. But first, a little Share Podcast news. Okay, guys, so first of all, I want to give a big thanks to my good friend Zinzi Gugu, who is also a member of the Private Accountability Group and is a pretty sophisticated sound engineer. And a few months back, she hit me up and she asked if she could help me out with editing the audio on some of the podcasts. And of course, I was like, yeah, please help. So today's episode is the first episode that Zinzi has edited for us. She did a phenomenal job. And I just want to thank her so much. She's such a pro. She definitely knows what she's doing. So in the episodes that she's edited, I definitely want to give her credit for that because I really, really, really appreciate it. She's been just a gem for me. And we've gotten really, really close. She's helped me in my sobriety, and I've definitely helped her with hers. She's doing a tremendous amount of service, guys. So Zin, thanks again. Great job, hon. And someone I've never really given credit to, but you see her posting all the social media on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, you name it, is Krista Wojo, and she does a phenomenal job handling all my social media needs as well as uploading all the show notes for the upcoming podcast episodes. She's taken so much off my plate. So once again, thank you so much, Krista. Okay, guys, if you remember correctly, last week I mentioned that now we will have our own private alumni group inside of the Sober Grid app. And for those of you hearing this message for the first time, I recently had the opportunity to interview Chris and Bo from Sober Grid, the founders of Sober Grid. And at the end of our interview, they suggested that the Share Podcast have an alumni group. What that means is that it is a private group within Sober Grid exclusively for Share Podcast listeners. So everybody that's in the Facebook group or listeners who don't like Facebook and would like a much safer place to communicate with other addicts and alcoholics online, then this is something you definitely want to check out. And not only that, you could just be in Sober Grid. Sober Grid is a great resource. It's absolutely free. You go to either your iTunes App Store or you go to your Google Play on your Android, type in Sober Grid, and the app will come right up. Again, it's absolutely free. Download it onto your phone. You can either sign up with your email, you sign up through Facebook, and as soon as you log in, you can go directly to the grid. And for example, when I log in here in Costa Rica, I can see 10 of my friends that are in Sober Grid. I didn't know they were in Sober Grid until I logged in and signed up, but now I can see that they're in Sober Grid as well. And when I go to Seattle or California or any place else in the world, I can type in the city that I'm going to be in, and immediately all the people in that city that are on Sober Grid will pop right up. So if I want to find out where a meeting is, or if I want to try and hook up with somebody for coffee or something like that, then what I do is I click on the picture of the person, and there's a little chat feature, and I can send them a message. So, and if the person gets creepy, you can always block them out as well. So it's a really safe app, and more importantly, this is a way for anyone who is traveling to find and get to a meeting. So guys, do me a favor, please sign up to Sober Grid, add yourself to the Share Podcast alumni group. The way to sign up to the alumni group is to go to the 3 lines at the top left of the grid or of the app. It's going to take you to the menu section. In the menu section, you'll see the grid newsfeed, which is just like Facebook. Profile, so you can edit your profile in the picture, invite Facebook friends. And then a little further down, you'll see where it says alumni group. Click on alumni group, type in SHAIR. The Share Podcast alumni group will pop right up. Just click on it, ask to join, and as soon as I get that notification, I'll approve you just like the Facebook private group. Let's see if we can get this thing thriving, especially for members who don't want to participate in Facebook, but do want a safe place to connect online. This looks like a great alternative. So download the app today and let's connect, guys. Okay, guys, another quick reminder that I will be at the Seattle International Narcotics Anonymous Convention this year, July 29th, 30th, and 31st, 2016. It will be held at the Seattle Airport Marriott, and I will be the main speaker on Friday night opening up the convention. If you go to the Share Podcast website, on the right-hand side of the website, you'll see a banner. It's a blue banner that says SINAC 2016. Click on that banner. It'll send you to the page where you have information about room rates, about registering for the convention. Everything you need to know about attending the convention is right on that website. So again, I would love to meet you guys in person. If you can make it out there, would love to see you. And as always, a big thank you to all of our listeners who sent in their generous donations. Again, the entire amount of your donation goes towards maintaining and growing the show. If you would like to make a donation, just go to the website. On the right-hand side of the page, you'll see a big yellow button, and it says donate via PayPal. Click on that button. It'll take you right to the donate page. And if you're going to buy something on Amazon anyway, then you might as well go to the Share Podcast, click on the banner that says Amazon, and then make your purchase after you've clicked on that banner. What that will do is anything you purchase on Amazon will kick back a little commission to the Share Podcast. It's not going to cost you a penny more, and it's going to absolutely help support and grow the show. And if you haven't done so yet, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. It's the best way to show your support, and it's the best way for us to rank higher on these search engines and help more people easily find the Share Podcast. And of course, the Share Podcast private accountability group. And again, the beautiful thing about the private group is that it's a safe place for anyone dealing with an addiction problem to join up and ask for help. Questions like, where's the nearest meeting? Or, I'm thinking about relapsing. What should I do? I'm having using dreams. I'm substituting food for drugs. So these topics will get posted in the group, and the other members will jump right in and give their experience, strength, and hope. So if you haven't joined, it's a lot of fun. It's Facebook. It's free. Get in there, join in, do some service, get some help. It's a great way to support the show. To join the group, just go to the top of the Facebook search bar, type in SHAIR private group, and the Share Podcast private accountability group will pop right up. So for more information about the Seattle Convention, the private accountability group, how to donate, or anything else share related, just go to the website www.thesharepodcast.com or email me at o@thesharepodcast.com, and I'll get back to you ASAP. So now a quick message from our sponsor and on to the show. Sober Nation is the largest online recovery community and treatment resource center. They provide treatment resources to those struggling with addiction, as well as to the family members who are caught in the crossfire. On top of that, Sober Nation is a huge community of good people who share their experience with each other. They have informative content, recovery and addiction news, as well as an entire clothing line which helps expand the culture of recovery. They can easily be found at www.sobernation.com. Sober Nation is putting recovery on the map. And finally, would you like to receive the most popular AA daily devotions free in one distribution? Transitions Daily delivers daily devotions from the 24 hours a day, AA Thought for the Day, Daily Reflections, Big Book Quote, Just for Today, As Bill Sees It, plus more. You can get our distribution daily via email, private Facebook group, or Twitter. Go to dailyaaemails.com for more information. And don't forget to share dailyaaemails.com with friends in meetings and with sponsees in recovery. Now back to the show. Hey, Mary, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show today. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's bright and early over here, but I'm alive, so that's good.
Excellent. I'm so excited to have you on the show. This is so great.
Thank you.
Now, listeners, just a little history, actually. Mary and I met because she is the fiancée of a good friend of mine, and she had come down to Costa Rica. They were touring Costa Rica. My wife and I took them out to dinner, and Mary told us that she was pregnant. And how far along were you at the time when you were in Costa Rica?
I was about 7 weeks, so I was really sick and pretty miserable, but it was good. It was a good trip.
Well, you were a trooper because you didn't let my wife and I see you sweat.
Yeah, it's all about putting on your game face,
Oh, absolutely. I get it. So you were just telling me right now before we started about, how tough it's been these last few months because your fiancé has been gone. So tell us a little bit about how that's been.
Yeah, well, Andy is a merchant marine. So for people who don't know what that is, they work on these big cargo ships that go deliver huge things like across the ocean from different countries. But he works in the States, so he's in Alaska. He's been gone since Thanksgiving, and it's February 7th now. So he comes back in 2 weeks, but it's hard because he hasn't been around. So I've been kind of doing this early pregnancy thing and by myself, which is a little bit challenging, especially in recovery.
No, I can only imagine. And the main reason why I reached out to you is because I was on Facebook and I was reading this post you put up, and it just cracked me up. It totally cracked me up. And obviously, I am not a woman. I'll never be pregnant. I'll never get it. All right. So it was kind of a cool thing to read. And I knew Mary's in recovery, so I was like, I'm going to reach out to her because I want to get her on the show and discuss what it's like to be pregnant and sober. It can't be that easy.
No, it definitely has a whole new range of challenges to it. I compare it a lot to early recovery in terms of emotional rawness. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on, so it's kind of like experiencing something new all over again.
So here are the rules that you're supposed to have for dealing with a pregnant woman, right? So rule number 1, never tell a pregnant woman she looks tired, especially on a Friday. Okay. Number 2, never comment on how much weight a pregnant woman has or has not gained. Ever.
No.
Rule number 3, if you are going to make a comment about a pregnant woman's appearance, a simple, "You look great," will do the trick. Rule number 4, no uterus, no opinion, unless you are the actual creator of the baby. Rule number 5, if you tell a pregnant woman she looks tired and she gives you attitude, do not immediately respond with, "Wow, pregnancy hormones much?" I can't believe I actually have to post something about this. For all of my friends who have refrained from unsolicited belly touches and commenting about my appearance, you are the real MVPs. Sincerely, a very sassy pregnant Mary. Does it sound more funny being read back to you?
It kind of does, but actually all those things were based on like real actual experiences that I've had so far in this pregnancy. Like people have actually said things about each of those rules that have made me make that list.
No, of course. No, and there's the other thing too. People just walk up to you and they just touch your belly, don't they?
It's so uncomfortable. Yeah, they do that all the time. Strangers, acquaintances. I don't really mind when friends and family do it, but it's other people that's like, what are you doing? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's the oddest thing. People that have no idea can't even imagine just how sensitive and how emotionally charged being pregnant is. And then, compound that with people's, invading your space and not respecting you as, basic as I can't imagine me talking to someone, having a conversation and them touching my belly. Okay. Like, hey, buddy, it looks like you've put on a little weight here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it happens a lot. It does. And especially at meetings where everyone is so used to hugging, when you go in for the hug with someone, their hand just gravitates towards your belly. I can almost foresee it happening.
Oh, man. Oh, goodness. Well, I'm so glad you came on, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. This is the Share Podcast, and we do discuss recovery stories. So this is a beautiful moment for Mary, and it's a beautiful moment for Andy. They're about to embark on a very beautiful journey together, and all because of recovery. But there was a time where it wasn't so beautiful, and there was a time where it was tough. So let's start talking about that time in your life before we got to pregnant Mary. So first, just give us the broad strokes of what your day-to-day life is like today, just to give our listeners an idea of what it's like to be you today and what your normal routine is.
Okay, so I live in Providence, Rhode Island, which is on the East Coast, kind of between New York and Boston. So it's a little cold here right now, not much to do outside. But my normal day today looks like I wake up at 4:30 in the morning because I work at a substance abuse clinic in the city, and it opens at 5:30. So I do substance abuse counseling there from like 5:30 to 2. After that, I usually go to the gym, do some like minimal things, do whatever I have to do for the day, eat food, whatever. And then I hit a meeting at night. And I do try to go to meetings every day. I don't always fulfill that goal, but I always try to do that. And on the weekends, I have a really great women's meeting I go to at Butler Hospital on Saturdays. It's called No Frills Sobriety, which is awesome. And I meet up with my sponsor. She lives in Newport. I'm actually in the process of moving to Newport, Rhode Island right now, which is a really cool like beach town. And what else do I do? I don't know. I just try to stay sane. I'm in the middle of a very thorough 4th step right now. So I'm doing my turnarounds, it's tough, but I try to do a little bit of writing every day whenever I can squeeze it in. Yeah, I do pray every day in the morning, usually get on my knees and ask for God to keep me away from a drink, a drug, and a cigarette. Always those 3 things, because I quit smoking too. I don't know. That's just a typical day, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And and so I'm curious about this No Frills women's meeting. I'm assuming there you can talk openly about your pregnancy and get good feedback from the women.
That meeting saved my life. I hated women. I hated women's meetings when I first got sober. I think a lot of women in recovery can relate to that. So when I first got to that meeting, it was called No Frills, and it was founded in the 70s or 80s. It's over 30 years old, that meeting. And It has lots of old women, which I love. I love them. They're all like my family now. But you can go and talk about whatever you want, whether it's sex problems, pregnancy, like infertility, domestic violence, rape, like all these things that we are so afraid to talk about in, mixed meetings. You can talk about freely and openly there. It's a very safe space.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. And so Mary, how much clean time do you have, and when's your anniversary date?
So I have about, a year and 8 months. My sobriety date is June 23rd, 2014.
So early in recovery with a brand new pregnancy. Challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
And how old were you the first time you drank or used drugs? And more importantly, how did they make you feel?
I can't exactly remember the first time I ever drank because my dad bartended and we had a fully stocked bar in the house. So I remember like having sips, as far back as maybe like 13. But my first drink was when I was 14. My brother was a football player and had a party with all these football popular jockey guys. And I was this awkward, fat little 13-year-old. And they gave me a Budweiser. And I drank this Budweiser, and all of a sudden I could talk to these hot football players, and I felt like my shoulders just relaxed, and I just felt like I had arrived, like it talks about in the book.
It certainly does. That's a very accurate and beautiful depiction of early alcoholism. There's those wonderful feelings of, I have arrived.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, Mary, I think you're all warmed up here, so I'm just going to turn this show over to you. It's time for you to share your story, the battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life, when you hit rock bottom, and finally, your journey into recovery up until today. So, Mary, take it away.
All right. So I'm going to try to keep this short because I do have a tendency to talk because I have a lot that happened in my story. But so I'm originally from New Hampshire. My parents divorced when I was about 9 or 10, and my dad lived far away. My mom, I stayed with her, and he went with my brother. So it was myself and my mom growing up. And she had trouble with money. We were on food stamps and welfare and all that stuff. So I didn't really fit in at school because I felt like I was one of the poor kids. And I was very overweight when I was growing up. Like in middle school, I was probably I was a lot bigger. And I'm tall. I'm 6'1" now. So when I was in middle school, I was tall and fat and very awkward.
Oh.
So I got made fun of a lot. Yeah, kids are very mean. And I wore glasses, I was nerdy, all that stuff. So I got made fun of so bad that I eventually had to switch schools because it got to be pretty physical. So I switched schools. I moved to New Hampshire with my dad, where he had this new girlfriend, and I wanted to make a fresh start. I was doing a geological cure by the time I was 14 years old. And I hadn't started drinking yet. So I started drinking when I got to this new school because like I had said with my first drink, those were the popular kids. My brother was popular. I wanted to be popular. So I didn't drink all the time, but my first job was a hostess at this bar, the only bar and restaurant in town where you could still smoke inside. And I was probably 15, and I was sneaking the Malibu rum out of my dad's house and mixing it with Mountain Dew and bringing it to school with me and having a buzz on at work. And I was 15 years old. They used to call me Malibu Mary at the bar that I worked at because they thought it was so funny that I was doing that. Which, looking back, it's really sad. I was this 15-year-old lost kid, but I lost all this weight, and I got contact lenses, and I changed my outside appearance. I think a lot of that comes from this deep insecurity within myself that I had. And I was in therapy because of my parents' divorce. My dad put me in therapy. So thank God for that, because that helped me tremendously in my getting sober too. I was a decent student. I got in trouble a lot. I would get suspended in detentions for smoking cigarettes in the bathroom and keying people's cars, stupid stuff like that. I was a punk. I liked to go to shows, see bands and everything, but I never really thought I could go to college. And I had this drug counselor in high school who made me go to AA meetings because I got caught with my Malibu rum Mountain Dew concoction. And I had to go to my first meeting when I was 16. And it was this hospital where I went to therapy. And there's all these old people, and they just said, "Oh, you young kids have it so good. Make sure you never turn out like us." And I said, "I'll never be like that guy. What do you mean?" Lo and behold, I am in AA now.
Yeah,
but anyway, I had all these terrible relationships in high school with guys. I always picked the wrong people, seemingly. My first boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend, and my life was destroyed. And I first started drinking about that. That was the first time I really started to drink about something,
Right.
To cope with these feelings that I had. I went to school in Providence, Rhode Island, because I was trying to do a brand new slate again. I wanted to get away from my family, everybody. I went and changed my name down there. I started a new identity. And I got into college. It's a small state school. And I started working at a skateboard shop. I was the manager. I don't know how I got that job. I really don't. I don't even skateboard. But I was a really big pothead at the time. I was smoking weed all the time, doing drugs, drinking. In college, I was on my own, so no one could, bother me. So I guess I just worked at that skateboard shop. And then I quit that and became a bartender because that's a great job for alcoholics.
Of course.
I bartended through college, and I was taking a lot of pills. I was taking a lot of stimulants, to get through school. And I was doing cocaine and smoking weed and all this stuff, all the while in school for psychology. That was my major. And I wanted to be a drug counselor, which is funny looking back on
It's
it.
hilarious.
I was so sick and suffering.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think I had this fascination with the culture of heroin addiction or something, just thinking those people are so sad. I want to help them, with whatever experience I had. I didn't have any.
Well, you're coming on strong.
Yeah.
It was coming.
But I thought in my head, I really made a joke out of it. I thought oh, you can't give good advice without experience. Ha ha ha. I thought it was so funny. But it's really not. It's very serious. But anyway, so I had a little bit of bottoms in college, with bartending. I was drinking behind the bar. I was taking lemonade and putting vodka in it and leaving work and drinking and coming back. And I worked a lot in college. I worked 3 different jobs. And I was just partying hard and working hard because I thought I deserved it. I was 21 at this time, and I was drinking underage at these Providence bars forever. And when I finally turned 21, the bartenders all got so mad at me, so they started banning me from their bars. So I had gotten banned from, and I love dive bars too, and I had gotten banned from 3 different dives in the city, which is really hard to do. So I was proud of that. It was a badge of honor. Anyway, but I always did really well in school. I got on the dean's list every semester. I got a double major, and eventually I did this internship at a detox unit where I would come in hungover every day to this detox because I thought in my logical head, it wasn't a real job. I'm just an intern. It's not serious. I'm probably not going to get hired anyway. So I would come in hungover, and I would breathalyze myself in the closet before I started my shift because I wanted to make sure I wasn't still drunk.
Oh, wow.
How insane is that?
That's insane. And the fact that you could actually do it at work.
I did that. You can breathalyze yourself. And I was never drunk. I was always below the, the
legal limit.
0.08 or whatever it is. Yeah. But I still would show up on it and I'd think, oh, I'm a shithead for doing this. I learned a lot from those people. And in the detox, they had an IOP attached to it. And it was a group, and they'd have to go to AA meetings. And I was sitting there facilitating some groups, and they'd all talk about how great AA was and how much of a great time they were having. And they all having these epiphanies. And I was jealous of the patients in this detox where I was working because they seemed to have something that I didn't have, And I went to a meeting with them one time, which I didn't think about until I got sober. They persuaded me to go to a meeting. And I think this is my higher power, putting this seed in my head. Because I'd been to one meeting when I was 16, and now I'm 22 or 21 going to another meeting with these clients with this detox. And I remember I came late. had my hood up with sunglasses on in the back, and I left early. I wasn't listening to anything. Then I ended up graduating, and I thought, all right, well, this drinking thing is just a phase. I can take care of it. I'm 23 years old, that everyone drinks like this when they're 23. But I mean, I never got arrested. I never went to jail. I never went to a detox, anything like that, because I think my bottom was way more of an emotional one. I felt like such a hypocrite. I ended up getting a job in this substance abuse treatment facility. It's a methadone clinic. And this is when I started to try to control it. In the big book, it talks about different ways we try to control our drinking, which is, like limiting number of drinks, drinking beer only drinking on the weekends, stuff like that. That's what I was trying to do. And it didn't work at all. I thought I had all the self-knowledge. I had a degree in psychology. I thought self-knowledge will be the key to my problems, like it talks about. But self-knowledge avails us nothing, So anyway, my rock bottom actually happened when I was at this karaoke bar, and I had drank all day. I played in this adult kickball league, and I was drinking all day at kickball, and I drank all afternoon, and I went to this karaoke bar, and I got so drunk that they cut me off, and I was very upset. So my friend walked me across the street to go take a nap in his car, I guess, while he went back inside. And I woke up and I had no idea where I was, whose car I was in. I couldn't figure out how to get out of the car. So I called 911, right, in my drunken state.
Inside the car?
Inside the car. I called 911 and I said, I'm being kidnapped. You need to come and get me out of this car. I told them that there was a gun involved. I told them that I was dragged across the street by gunpoint. Like, none of that happened. But I don't know why I thought that happened. Anyway, I tried to break the windows of this car, and they came, and the cops just made fun of me, and they let me out, and they're like, you need to go home.
Oh my God, what a story.
This was right across the street from the bar. The bar was all windows, so everybody inside saw what happened. And this is, I thought like, oh, I'm a counselor, I can't let anybody know that I have a drinking problem. Like, I thought I was really good at hiding it. No, no, I wasn't. So I tried to really control my drinking after that, but it wasn't until, that was in March, and it wasn't until June that I got sober. So I was still kicking and fighting for my right to drink, and I couldn't control it. It just kept getting worse, and I kept feeling worse about myself. I was gaining more weight again. I was miserable, depressed, anxious. I tried to quit smoking cigarettes, and I used this book called The 12 Steps of Tobacco Dependence. I think it's a Hazelden book, to quit smoking. And I was using the 12 steps before I got sober to quit smoking.
Nice.
But yeah, that was a real like higher power thing that was put in my life too, because I learned how to do 12 steps with one thing anyway. But anyway, so yeah, I had one last weekend. You know how it talks about, I don't know if it doesn't talk about this, but the one last weekend that we all have.
Been there.
How if you're planning to quit drinking, which I wasn't planning to quit drinking, but I had this one weekend where I completely blacked out, and I went to Gay Pride, and I had like so many mixed drinks, and I blacked out, and I ended up in like 3 towns later wearing like leopard print spandex shorts, and in this house, like I had no idea where I was.
This is so great. I'm picturing it.
Like, it's leopard print spandex shorts, and I have this like sailor uniform on, and I'm like,
you're with the village people.
And I'm not even gay, like that's, what did I do? Like, I don't know. But anyway, I was partying really hard. So, But that's like a normal weekend, like crazy stuff like that. I love going out, getting hammered, doing weird stuff. Like that's what I did. And for some reason, I was just particularly like ashamed of myself. Like, how did I let this happen again? I don't remember anything. I have no money. I'm like, this isn't getting better. It's only getting worse. So after that was a Saturday. So that Sunday morning, I woke up super hungover, figured out how to get home. And I thought, okay, I'm not drinking for a month, I'm not going to drink for a month because that was too crazy. And I made it about 5 hours without drinking. And I went out to a bar as soon as someone said, hey, what are you doing? Let's go get a drink. And I said, sure. Just all my resolution just went out the window. And I had done that before. I think when I turned 22, I thought, oh, wow, I don't think I've been sober since I turned 21. Oh, well. And then I went and got drunk again. Like I'd thought about it briefly, but never, a lot. Mm-hmm. So that Sunday I had, 5 hours of sobriety, and then I went out again. And my last drink wasn't particularly eventful. It was just, I think I had like 8 to 10 Miller High Lifes and like 5 shots of Jameson, which was normal for me.
Ugh,
but
Jesus.
And then like, that was it. That was what my last drink was, a lot of drinks, but I was still feeling sober at that point. Like I was drinking, but I wasn't having fun anymore. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing. It stopped working for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't doing what I wanted it to do anymore. My whole life was bartending and fun and parties and shows and hanging out with DJs and all this stuff. But it wasn't fun. I was trying to recapture the memories of the past, and it just wasn't getting any better. It was only getting worse. So that Sunday, I could have gone to another bar with my friends, but I, for some reason, said, no, I'm going to go home. And when I was home, I was checking Facebook, and this kid who plays kickball with me posted something about his 5-year sobriety anniversary. And I thought, holy shit, I didn't even know this kid was sober. Like, that's how oblivious I was. This kid's been sober for 5 years, and I had no idea, Uh-huh. Anyway, so for some reason, my higher power was in my life that day, and I reached out to him, and I messaged him, and I said, hey, dude, what... I said, congratulations on 5 years. Just out of curiosity, what did you do and how did you stay sober for this long? I thought he was like a guru. And he said, oh, I went to detox, rehab, and AA, and I still go to meetings every day. And he said, I'll take you to a meeting if you want. And he must have known I had a drinking problem. I don't know how, but...
I don't know how. I don't know.
I thought I was a genius at hiding it.
Yeah, of course.
I said, oh, yeah, like that would be good. He's like, my anniversary meeting is tomorrow. It was Monday night. It's tomorrow. I'll take you. And I said, no, I'll just meet you there. He's like, no, seriously, Mary, I will take you to this meeting. Let me pick you up. So I said, all right, whatever. And the next day, Monday, is June 23rd, 2014. He picked me up, and I almost didn't go because I was in the middle of watching Wayne's World, which is a very important movie. I was like into this movie. I've seen it a million times. But
the stupidest movie on the planet.
I know, but I almost turned down this meeting just because I was busy watching Wayne's World. Anyway. But I ended up going anyway, and it was the Providence Young People's Meeting, which is the most important meeting to me because I went to this meeting and I sat down and he made me raise my hand and say I was new, which I didn't want to do, but he made me do it. And I got a 24-hour chip, and I listened to people. And I listened, and I looked around the room, and I saw like cool chicks with tattoos, and I saw like people that I knew from bartending, actually. And I thought to myself, wow, like these people are pretty cool. It's not all trench coats and, cigarettes like I thought that it was in the beginning. I don't know what happened that day, but for some reason I didn't drink that day. And I went and hung out with them after the meeting. These women cornered me, and one of them had pink hair and tattoos. And she said, "Hey, do you have a sponsor? I'll be your sponsor." So she became my sponsor. And it's just been a whirlwind ever since then. I've been sober since that day, and a lot's happened, but it's a miracle that day, that meeting really saved my life.
Is that your story?
That's my story, yeah.
Mary, what a great story. And you're a great storyteller.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it. Here's the thing, the great takeaway as soon as you said it was about the kid with the 5 years. And, you see him posting that he's got 5 years on Facebook, and you reach out to him. And it's funny how, as well as I do, if anyone were to message me or message you on Facebook and go, hey, congratulations, if they were to know that you were sober and go, and hey, by the way, how'd you do it?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, this person needs help.
Right.
Yeah, there's not, we all know that's HP working in our lives right there. Boom. It's
HP, baby. That's right.
That is absolutely what it is. And it's such a beautiful thing. As soon as you started telling that part of your story about reaching out, I go, wow, God is working in her life. God is totally working in her life in this moment. And it's such a beautiful thing to watch, because when you walk in, and listeners, Mary is super tall. She's taller than me. She's beautiful. She's blonde. She's super bubbly. The girl that she describes, the chubby girl in high school, I have a hard time picturing her, because when I saw her. Her and Andy make a very cute couple. They're both very tall people. So it's cool to watch, and they've got this wonderful aura and energy about them. And she's got her tattoos, and she's just like the girls in the meetings. She's pretty awesome. If you guys, to give you an idea of what I saw or what I see, and a wonderful power of example to what this program can do for anyone. If you decide that you want to surrender and you want to walk away from this lifestyle, if you just give it a moment, if you just allow, your higher power to just step in and just take control for just a moment, the rest, it almost seems seamless once you let go.
Definitely, yeah.
And so now so tell us, so now that, we've got an idea, we've got your story now, let's talk a little bit more about what's been happening since this pregnancy. Because when, I saw you were just recently pregnant. So what's been going on, and what advice can you give to our sober ladies listening about being sober and being pregnant?
Yeah, well, since I saw you, I found out that the baby is indeed a boy. So we are having a boy.
Oh,
which is very
congratulations.
exciting. Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
The advice I would give is just be patient with yourself. I've been dealing with you have these mood swings and emotional turmoil and a lot of worries and anxiety. It feels a lot to me like early recovery, because in early recovery, I felt like an exposed nerve. Like I felt everything so strongly. I really would suggest keeping a good network of recovery, especially women. Women have been so important to me. That women's meeting I go to, there's nothing that I can go through in sobriety that someone hasn't already done before me. So I know that if I go into a meeting and I share about something I'm going through, then other women specifically will be able to help me with their experience with that thing. So going to meetings, talking to a sponsor, praying about it, keeping up all, staying off of Google. Do not go on Google. That's my big thing.
What do you mean?
Because every pregnancy symptom you have, if you go to Google and say, oh, I'm having heartburn, it's like, oh, if you have heartburn too much, then this baby will come out deformed or something. It's like so crazy to stay off of Google.
Okay.
Only listen to your doctor.
Google is the enemy.
It is. But definitely staying close, even closer, staying very close to AA has helped me tremendously.
And for you, the huge advantage you have is this amazing women's meeting. If you can find a women's meeting where you can honestly and openly share about exactly what you're going through in specific details, it's probably the best thing you can do for yourself.
Right. And if there's no women's meeting around you, find a woman at a meeting, doesn't matter who she is, if she has kids or not, just find a woman and talk to a woman. Like that really helped me a lot. Go out to coffee or something. And that can qualify as a meeting. It only takes two to make a meeting.
That's 100% true. Beautiful. I love it. All right. So let's start winding down, Mary. Thank you so much for that spectacular story. It's so cute and so endearing. And seriously, you do tell the story super fantastic. I love the way you tell your story.
Thank you.
It's very engaging. All right. So what I want to do here is I want to ask you some questions for the newcomers. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery, and you're going to respond with inspiring and insightful answers you can share with our newcomers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So number 1, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
I'd say the number one thing was my age. I was 23 when I walked in the doors, and I feel like our society has this stigma, if you're young, you can't be an alcoholic if you're 23, it's too young, which I was definitely proved that's not true. There's so many young people in recovery, so inspiring. I love it. And another thing was fear and ego. Definitely were keeping me from, I was fighting a lot of that. Fear that I would lose friends, fear that I would lose out on experiences of my 20s, fear that life wasn't going to be fun anymore. Those things. And ego, because I thought I knew better. I could do this myself. I'm smarter than everybody here. I know more. That's not true. The ego has to be smashed. That's what my sponsor said to me.
It does. It does. The ego is not my amigo.
No. That's good.
Just to clarify, that didn't come from me. I heard that at a meeting, and I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. But it's so true.
I'm going to use that. That's good.
Yeah. Please use it. One of the guys in the meeting actually made a T-shirt out of it. It was hysterical. He liked it so much, he made a T-shirt out of it.
I would wear it.
Yeah. Oh, I could see it. All right. So, Mary, number 2, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
So I'd say my first spiritual awakening was on Mother's Day of this past year. And I had probably had about, 10, 11 months at this point. But till then, I didn't really have a spiritual foundation. I wasn't practicing spirituality. I didn't care about it. I thought I could do this without spirituality. It was on Mother's Day. I was sitting between my grandmother and my mom, and we were at church, and I never go to church. And I was walking up to do the communion, to get the wine and the cracker. And I refused the wine, right? I refused the wine, and I was sitting there between my mom and my grandmother, and the priest just looked at me, and he gave me a knowing smile and nod, and he blessed me, and I just started crying. I was overwhelmed with this warm feeling of love and acceptance and happiness and joy with my 2 dominant female figures next to me at this church. And I just felt like I can do this. I have hope that I can do this. And I thought to myself, I started crying after. That was such a spiritual awakening. I've never had something like that happen to me before.
Oh, wow. I almost got teary here. That's heavy.
Yeah.
I actually pictured it. I could see you in that church going through in that moment, and I could actually picture the priest, with like a small smile, just kind of letting you know it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's totally okay. It's completely okay.
Right. And it was something out of the movie. I could not believe it.
We have such amazing stories, such Hollywood stories where if there was a camera following us, It would be. They're such epic and priceless moments that I always say this. Every single one of us has a blockbuster movie inside of us.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
There's no question about it. That's such a beautiful spiritual awakening. All right, Mary, number 3. Do you have a favorite book you would recommend to a newcomer that you read in early recovery?
So I always say number 1 favorite book is The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's my favorite book. I decorated it with stickers. You can go through, decorate it however you want. It's a great book. So awesome. I read it whenever I can, and you can kind of open it up and find something that applies to you anywhere. The stories in the back are my favorite. There's one called He Nearly Lost It All. That's my favorite story in the back of The Big Book. My second favorite book is this book called Blackout by Sarah Hapola. It just came out, I think this past year.
Yes.
It's so good. I love this book. It's about this woman, and it's her life story. She got sober in New York, in New York City, and she just talks about alcoholism and feminism and all the terrible relationship stuff we go through. And it's so inspiring. I love this book.
Sarah Hapola is one of my dream guests that I would love to have on the show to interview. She's been on After Hour, I think it's the After Hour pod, and she's also been on Home. Those are 2 podcasts that are hosted by women, and she's been interviewed on there. I have actually read Blackout, and because all the women on my show that I interview recommend that book.
It's so good. It was recommended to me by my sponsor, and I read it, and I was hooked. So I recommend it to everyone now.
It's heavy. I had no idea how heavy the book was and how real it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you described being in high school, and a lot of what she describes had that the weight issue and being uncomfortable in her own skin and needing validation from men. And then, of course, the heavy, copious amounts of alcohol to kind of drown out all the guilt, shame, and remorse as she trudges through her journey. Yes, especially for women in recovery, it's a spectacular book, and it's very detailed. It's very honest.
I would even recommend it to people who are struggling with, if they think they're an alcoholic, or if they're struggling with that, if they're unsure, definitely read that book, because it's helped people kind of understand more about the disease. It's a very good book.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, guys. All right. Just another plug for Sarah. All right. So, number 4, what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
As a newcomer, the best suggestion I've ever received was do not start a new relationship in your first year of sobriety. That saved my ass, because
Please continue.
I made terrible decisions when it came to relationships. I got into toxic, terrible relationships. My picker was broken. I had no idea who I was. I think that's the most important part. When you're so new in recovery, I had no idea who I was, what I liked, how I wanted to be treated, nothing. So my suggestion was don't get into a new relationship in early recovery, and don't even have sexual relationships in early recovery, which is just a suggestion. And I was not perfect with that, but I did it to the best of my ability. And I did not get into a relationship for the first year, and it really made a difference.
So how much time did you have when you met Andy?
13 months.
You knew that was coming.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't expecting it, though. It's one of those things you weren't looking. I wasn't looking. We met at a fellowship thing after a meeting. We all went out for Chinese food, and we started talking then. And I had 13 months at the time. It was funny the way it happened.
It's always, that's how it happens. That's how it happens. And those are the ones that are meant to be anyway. The ones that you weren't looking for that found you.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I met my wife. I met her at Tin Ho in San Jose, Costa Rica. It's It's kind of like a Thai type restaurant, almost Chinese.
Yeah, right. It's,
But I
it's
was-
a very romantic spot.
Yeah. so I wasn't looking, but there she was, and
Yeah.
so you kind of know it was like, well, I guess it was meant to be, So, but yes, it's a great suggestion. Most people, completely ignore that suggestion. And
Definitely.
and what you just mentioned is the most important part of that whole aspect. It's not so much don't get in a relationship because we want to tell you what to do and ruin your life. No, okay? But you don't know who you are. You
Right.
have no idea who you are. And more importantly, if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want.
Exactly.
So you're just going to attract the same people you've always attracted
Right.
in your life. There is this whole, the term, or I'm sure you've heard this, dysfunction seeks dysfunction.
Yeah, my sponsor says water seeks its own level.
There you go. I like that one. I like that one. I'm going to start using that one too.
Yeah.
Unless you make that conscious change and your life starts to change, your mindset starts to change, your philosophies, your principles, your values, they start to change. The people that I know that have actually taken that suggestion, it's paid off.
It's hard, but it does pay off. And definitely going to meetings every day. In the beginning, I was going to 9 meetings a week, and I had like 3 service jobs at all times. I went a little crazy, but another good suggestion is get a service position, whatever it is, stick with it, go to meetings, be accountable, that kind of thing. Getting a sponsor, reading the big book, going to at least one conference in your first year, whether it's a young people's convention or an AA state convention, whatever it is, go, because they're so much fun.
Great suggestions, Mary. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Oh, it was a really, really good experience to share with you.
It's good. And you know what? This is going to be for thousands of women to listen to. So.
Oh, that doesn't make me nervous at all.
I knew it wouldn't. All right, folks. We've now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida, oh.
Thank you for joining us on the Share Recovery Podcast. To check out the show notes page on this interview or to thank our guests for sharing their story, go to www.thesharepodcast.com. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news, podcasts, and interviews. Want to be one of our guests and share your story? Then go to our website and click on the Share Your Story button. We share our inspiring recovery stories every Tuesday, so subscribe to our show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio to get your free weekly download. We'll see you then. The opinions shared on this show reflect those of the individual speaker and not of any 12-Step Fellowship as a whole. And though we discuss 12-Step recovery and the impact it had in our lives, we do not promote or endorse any 12-Step Anonymous program.